This video has been a long time in the making. Over 6 months, in fact. Today, I want to talk about my experience installing the Blackbird Fabworx RZ Rollbar in my NC Miata. Installing the Blackbird bar in an NC, frankly, it really does suck. You can kind of divide the process into several phases. The first phase is obviously removing everything in the interior, kind of getting the car prepped. You're gonna need a 10, a 12, 14, 17 millimeter, various screwdrivers and trim removal tools, pry tools to kind of get everything out of the car. The best thing you can do is label and organize all the nuts and bolts that come off the car, so you have a hope and chance of putting the car back together properly. Oh. I'm keeping it simple here. There are tutorials you can find online for this process, and frankly, it is the easiest part. Tearing down the car only takes about an hour or two. With the interior out of the way, we get into the hard part of the install. This absolutely requires 2 sets of hands to accomplish this job. You cannot do it by yourself. The bar is big, heavy, unwieldy, and at certain points of the install, the top has to come up and down to get the bar into or out of the car. And taking the bar in and out of the car is just part of the process as you mark everything required to drill. The NC chassis is incredibly stout, and drilling into the chassis is honestly one of the biggest pains of this install. Don't bother with anything else but Cobalt drill bits. Go to Harbor Freight, buy the full set of Cobalt drill bits. They're expensive. You will sacrifice the entire set making this happen, but they are the only thing strong enough to drill through the chassis where the front legs in particular mount to the vehicle. The rear legs, as they go into the wheel wells, are much thinner, but they still suck. The Cobalt drill bits will save you so much time and so much frustration. The front legs of the Blackbird bar sit over a boxed part of the chassis in the NC. And Moti's solution here is to use aluminum cylinders to kind of go into the void after you drill out this boxed part of the chassis. These are a pain. Everyone you ask who's done this install will tell you the same thing. It's not fun to do. Basically, you have to sort of maneuver these aluminum cylinders into place, then drop a huge bolt that kind of goes through the entire part of the boxed chassis, and it kind of gets sandwiched all together. You'll understand it as you do it, but frankly, the only way to do it is just to do it. There's no secret here. It just takes a lot of time, and it's a real pain. The aluminum cylinders that Moti provides that kind of tie the front leg and the box part of the chassis together when you bolt everything together. Obviously, they're aluminum. They're non-magnetic, and it is very easy to drop them in the cavity where they eventually rest. So be very, very careful when doing this, because if you drop them in the box part of the chassis, getting them back out really sucks. Take it from me. The big deal about the Blackbird RZ Rollbar is that it is compliant with NASA and SCCA rules while also playing nice with the factory soft top. And the components that Blackbird provides to adapt the RZ bar to have the soft top latch receiver on both ends, on the windshield panel and on the roll bar itself, both of them seem to work pretty well. The Blackbird RZ bar has an available provision for the optional Bose speakers, which my NC has. And while the speakers will mount up to the new roll bar, the wiring harness and the rest of the parts that go with the Bose audio, in the end, I ended up kind of just jamming them into the back half of the vehicle behind all the bulkhead plastics when putting the car back together. With the roll bar installed in the car, there are a few more things you absolutely must know before you buy one for yourself. In the NC community, everyone says the Blackbird Fabworx RZ Rollbar is the best, point blank. Whenever someone says something is the best, you should always be a bit skeptical. More often than not, no one product is going to be infinitely better in every single way compared to another product of a comparable design. So let's go for a drive and unpack things a little bit more.
Oh, hi there. It's your boy, just checking in. Are you enjoying the video so far? Well, of course you are. That's because this is some grade A primo content we're talking about. So go ahead and show your support by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. It's free and it helps the channel. All right, back to the video.
From an everyday utility standpoint, after all, my NC is a street and track build, and I really do enjoy driving on the street. The RZ bar does present a few slight compromises. Putting the top up and down while seated is no longer really possible because you have to kind of arch your hand up and over the bar. After using a Dremel or a cutting tool to cut up all of the plastics on the back half of the car to go around the bar, buying the optional leather covers does kind of hide a lot of the sins you've done to make everything fit there. With these considerations in mind, assuming you do a really good job reassembling the car, it is completely possible to have the car have a basically full interior and look very, very production quality. I think my car is very passable. If you look very close, you see where I was a bit sloppy with cutting up the interior to make it fit around the bar, but overall, it looks good. While you can absolutely reinstall stock OEM seats with the RZ bar, I really do not recommend it, especially if you're taller, just because the headrest of the seat is so low relative to the bar, and it is very possible in the event of a collision, you could hit your head on the bar and seriously injure yourself. I would really consider a bucket seat of some sort kind of required material here in order to feel safe in the car with the RZ bar, because it is so thick and is so close to your head. It's one thing to note that if you are going to reuse the stock seats with the RZ roll bar is that all the rear bulkhead plastics do get kind of pushed outward a little bit, slightly reducing the amount of seat space you have and seat back space. So if you have the seat all the way back like I do because I'm 6'1", the leather seats are going to squeak non-stop against the plastic bulkhead. You will have to move the seat slightly forward to stop it from doing that. A racing bucket seat really is the answer here, and spoiler alert, one's coming very soon. After over 4 months of waiting and 2 very grueling weekends putting the car together with the roll bar, the thing is finally in, and frankly, the NC feels amazing after doing this. The roll bar adds so much rigidity to the chassis, it's actually unbelievable. This can be felt in a lot of things. The transition of the car in corners, it feels so much more planted and so much sharper. What's really interesting is that, especially for an older NC like mine, my car has 130,000 miles on it, and I'm sure your car's in a similar boat. It actually did reduce some of the squeaks and rattles in the car and make the car overall feel much more solid. I think boxing in that part of the chassis with the aluminum cylinders, is terrible as that is to do from a DIY perspective, really does make the car so much more rigid. And in the event of an accident, those aluminum cylinders tying that part of the chassis together basically prevent the bar becoming so rigid it punches through the chassis, which can happen. It is totally possible that if I rolled the vehicle over and the bar took all the impact, if there was nothing there in the boxed part of the chassis where the front legs bolt through, that whole part of the car could buckle in a serious collision. So while it is a ton of extra work, I think it does pay dividends in terms of overall safety and vehicle responsiveness. So all of this sounds good, and even looking beyond the high cost, I really only have one issue with the Blackbird Fabworx bar, and that's how Moti chooses to run his business and why it took over 4 months to get this roll bar. The massive delay in getting this roll bar really has kind of derailed the whole NC build, and I did lose several potential sponsorship opportunities for this channel because the car simply would not be ready for track day season in 2023 and in 2024. So I needed a roll bar. I'd already bought the Blackbird bar, and I kept getting strung along by Moti, the owner of Blackbird, saying the bar was almost ready, next week, it's at powder coat. It was supposedly at powder coat for months and months and months and months, until I kept calling him on it, and then he told me the truth. The bar had never been built, it was not ready, and he had a huge backlog, and he kept taking on orders when he knew he was not able to complete them. So that put me and presumably a bunch of other people in this bind. Moti agreed that this had gotten out of hand and decided to give me a freebie. He gave me a seat mount for a fire extinguisher, because I told him it was a track car, as a freebie, as a gesture of goodwill. Unfortunately, I've heard a similar story from other people even recently. People are still saying that Moti has a huge backlog and is not responding to emails or phone calls, and my guess is it's the same scenario we're seeing here, where frankly, he's taking on too many orders, his shop is too small, and he's not able to turn around these roll bars, so people are getting stuck waiting. So even though the Rollbar is a fantastic product, despite the high price point, despite the challenges installing it, it is impossible for me to recommend buying the bar from Blackbird Fabworx because you just don't know what you're gonna get from Moti, the shop owner. And that's so frustrating because I love to support local businesses. You know, Moti is west of LA. He's about 45 minutes away from me, and I really want to support local when I can, support local racing. If you're gonna have to wait months and months and months and never get a phone call return, chase this guy down, what's the point? Give your money to someone who will appreciate your business.